Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be my review of this knife, and this is the Jack Wolf Knives Knife Center exclusive Bionic Jack. And this is one that I am really particularly excited to get to check out and show to you, because not only is it a Jack Wolf Knives knife, which I am always really excited to see, and a new version of a model that I have really enjoyed, the Cyborg Jack, but also this Knife Center exclusive is one that I really like the kind of theme behind. So I'll talk about that more later. But first of all, like I said, this is Ben's kind of modernized or more modernized take on the Cyborg Jack. So it's actually the first Jack Wolf Knives model to have 3 variations. So it has the original, the Cyborg Jack, and also they have done the mini Cyborg. So there is the mini, the regular, and now the Bionic, which is the modernized version with the lock on this version, a bolster lock, the clip, and the several methods of one-hand opening. And so I think that's a really cool thing that this is the first model to have those 3 variations. Of course, there's the little bro and the big bro, and there is the Benny's clip and the Benny, the Midnight Jack and the After Hours Jack. But this makes the first kind of 3 trio of models, and I think that that's a really cool thing. I actually asked Ben if there was a particular reason why he did it first with this, and he said no, it's just that he drew these 2 first, and then it made sense to do this version. There's several different versions of this Bionic Jack coming out, and like I said, this is the Knife Center exclusive version. All of the other options, there's I believe 4 other options, will be at all of the dealers. And of those other options, really the one that I think I'm most interested in, if I was going to choose between them, is the frame lock, the full frame lock version, which means that there's no cover material. It's all titanium. I'll talk about why that is in a second, but there's some really cool options if you're not able to snag one of these. But I think that this is going to be the one that people want. It seems like since just today they posted the announcement of this knife, that the most interest has been in this version. A lot of excitement over this crystallized titanium, which is what the covers are on this. And so I think that it's really going to be the one to get. And now I want to say real quick, why am I making a video here on the day that this is announced? Well, I have actually had this knife for a little while now, and I have been carrying and using it, and I wanted to get a video made because I am going to be out of town for a little while and won't be able to make a video closer to when this knife is actually releasing. But I did get this knife earlier than I normally would have because it's a Knife Center exclusive. So Seth V of Knife Center, if you're familiar with his work, he does great videos and lots of cool stuff for Knife Center. Really is kind of the driving force behind this Knife Center exclusive. And I got to chat with him about what his kind of vision was for this knife, and it really got me excited about it, and I got to get it a little earlier than I normally would, and have been really putting it to use. I've carried this knife and used this knife pretty much exclusively since getting it. I've carried it every day, and I've used it a lot. I've had some house projects and stuff like that. In fact, I kind of beat it up a little bit, which I'll talk about later, but I have been using it and really, really enjoying it. So I want to talk about what is special about this Knife Center exclusive. Well, this Blurple crystallized titanium is really cool just in itself. So first of all, they haven't done Blurple before, which is this mix between purple and blue, which is kind of classic in the knife world. It's something people often really get excited for, and I think that they did a really great job of the color. If you look at this, it is really, really cool. It's hard to deny the aesthetic appeal of purple. I think it's just a great color. I teach and do jiu-jitsu, and I always say, but I'm glad that I have my black belt, but I think purple is the coolest color, the coolest belt color. And I think that that's because it's just a cool looking color. It's kind of just a joke that I have with some of my students and training partners that you can't really get a cooler looking color than purple. And so this blurple is really nice looking. I think they did a great job of it. But beyond the color of it, it is crystallized titanium. So what is that? Well, I looked into it, and what it is basically they take normal titanium, like titanium is normally sandblasted or stonewashed, normally sandblasted to start, and they apply heat and pressure and time, and it really actually changes the structure, the molecular structure of the titanium. So this crystallization is not just a surface finish. Like the anodization is, it doesn't go through the whole of the knife. It's basically a change to the surface. The crystallization is not that. It changes the whole structure of the titanium. So it is, throughout the titanium. It does make it more expensive because it adds that process to change the titanium to crystallized titanium. But this knife is only $10 more than the other versions. So it's not really a big difference when you're, they're already $350 to $360. I don't think it makes a big difference to get this really cool and unique material that I think I have seen it previously, but not much, and certainly not on any knives that I've ever had in my possession. So I think that this crystallized titanium is really cool. But on top of that, what Seth said his kind of intention with this knife was to really showcase titanium. And so how does this knife do that? Well, first of all, you have this crystallized titanium, which shows this actual change to the titanium, but it's anodized, and it's anodized beautifully, which is one of the great things about titanium. People love anodized titanium. Also, the screws on the covers here are anodized to match. So I like that, and particularly I like that the screw for the pivot does not match those, but rather matches the other finish on the bolsters here, which is a dark blasted finish. And that's the other, really kind of classic finish for titanium, is this cool blasted finish that shows wear in a nice way. People talk a lot about snail trails on Chris Reeve knives, and I wish I could show you mine, but it's packed up. And I think that it makes for a great weathered look that I really appreciate. You can see mine already has some of those snail trails on it. And I really like that they matched the screws to the titanium that they are in. So you have the anodized, you have the blasted, and then the third finish for the titanium here is polished. And polished titanium, again, is something that is a little higher end, I would say. It adds a process to the titanium. Pretty much all titanium gets blasted in some way, or some finish like that, but then you have to add this polished finish to it, and I think it looks really great. I love it on the gunslinger. So this is my polished titanium clip and backspacer gunslinger, and I really love it on that, and was happy to see it as one of the kind of finishes to showcase titanium on this Bionic jack. So you can see both the backspacer and the clip are polished. Now again, I have kind of been rough on this knife, so there's some scratches, but it still looks great in my opinion. So I really like this idea of showcasing titanium. Everybody loves titanium. Titanium is like one of the most classic materials to be used in pocket knives, and so I think it's a really cool idea to showcase that. Now talking about the rest of the finish here, you can see the blade has a hand satin, which is really cool. It gives it that kind of high-end look, which I love on this knife, and is also just another finish. It's different than the rest of the finishes. So, you've got a lot of different processes involved in this knife. So I really like that theme. I like what Seth has kind of focused and honed in on, pun intended, with this knife in showcasing the titanium. I really appreciate it, and I like that the exclusive has that kind of, it's a different take on the knife. It's not just a different handle material, but has an actual kind of theme behind it. Now, as for the construction of this knife, if you follow my channel, if you follow Jack Wolf Knives, you know that they are super, super well made, and that is true on this. It came drop close smooth. It has remained drop close smooth. It is super easy to open. I actually think that this is all of the opening methods are super easy and great to use, very satisfying. I think that the opening on this knife is the best of all of the modernized Jack Wolf knives so far. So you can certainly front flipper it. It's really perfect. I mean, the 10 is perfect. It flips open super nicely. I even can, if I do like an over the top, it works great for that, which, you know, I don't really use that much, but it's nice that you can do it. The middle finger flick on the back works great. And I also can use a slow roll or thumb roll really nicely also. I've actually used that quite a bit when I was opening and using this knife. And really those last two have kind of surprised me, because when I saw this, I was like, wow, that is a small long pull. So I'll show you in comparison to some of the other modernized Jack Wolf knives. There is, again, the Gunslinger. Here is the After Hours. And then, why not, the Benny. And you can see that the Bionic Jack's long pull is by far the shortest of all of them. So I was like, oh, is that going to be hard to get at? And it is very much not hard to get at. For whatever reason, I guess it's the placement of it. It just works really great for me. I'm really happy with how the opening works. And, you know, I think that Ben did a great job designing, you know, that small long pull. So it's really easy to open, really smooth to close. Mine came perfectly centered and has remained perfectly centered. And as usual, it is ground very nicely for very nice cutting. I have, like I said, been using this a good bit. Works great for food prep, cutting food up for my son. I talk about that a lot in my videos, but it is one of the uses that I use my knives for a lot. But also house projects, and it did great with that. Some like using it to scrape a little bit of wood on a door jamb basically, and things like that, and it did really great. And speaking of that, while I was putting in a doorknob, I set it down and kind of forgot and actually kicked it across my basement floor, cement floor. So that's why you can see, you know, some scratches on the clip. This scratch, I think, is from that, and then in particular these scratches here are from that. So like I said, this is basically normal anodization, and anodized titanium, the anodization is not, you know, throughout the whole titanium. It is a surface finish. So you can scratch that off. So just be aware of that. Just because the anodization gets scratched off does not indicate that this, you know, crystallized titanium is not throughout the whole thing. It is. It's just that the anodization can come off. Now, one thing I mentioned earlier is that if I was going to choose any other version but this one, which I would choose this one because I, again, think that the whole theme is really cool. But if I was to choose a different version from this run, I would choose the all titanium version. And that is not something that is usually the case. That's because I really do like the look of these bolster locks. I think it really keeps the traditional aesthetic. So, you know, on these knives, if you look at this side, it's no different than you know, the slip joint versions. They look the same and really could be a slip joint. When you turn them over, you can see, you know, you do see that bolster lock there, but because of the cover, it keeps that pretty small. On the full frame lock versions, you can see the whole lock. So if you look here, you can see this whole lock. And so it does make it look a little bit more modern to me. But one thing is, on this particular design, because of this upward curve and the point of this cover, this does point out a little bit. Now, it's one of those things where, like, as someone who thinks about knives a lot, hence Knife Thoughts, and, you know, reviews them, sometimes you notice things because you're overthinking. And I think that's the case here, because I was just kind of looking at it and felt it and was like, oh, that is a little pointy, and then kind of pulled my finger down, and you can feel it a little bit. You can certainly, you know, kind of catch your finger on it if you do it intentionally, if you pull your finger down intentionally. But in my use, and again, you know, for having the knife for as long as I have, I've used it a good bit, I haven't noticed it causing any trouble. So, you know, I don't think that it's something that's really going to cause any practical issues for you, but I did want to mention that if you're worried about that, you could go with the full titanium version where, you know, there's not this separate piece. But then you're losing the cool aesthetic of the bolster lock, and also, you know, you can't get this cool titanium version if you're, well, this cool crystallized titanium version if you're going to go with the full titanium. So like I say, I think that this is going to be the one that is going to go fast. I think people are going to really jump on this one. There has been a lot of excitement on it. I think that this is another great model from Jack Wolf Knives. I think Ben is really proving himself to have an eye for design. I think people who have followed Jack Wolf Knives don't question that. It's something that they already know. But the more, you know, different versions of models, the more new people come into to appreciating Jack Wolf Knives, I think the more people will realize that these are really well designed knives, and aside from being really well made. And so I have really enjoyed this Jack Wolf Knives Knife Center exclusive crystallized titanium Bionic Jack. These are dropping soon, so make sure you check out the description. I will have details on that and links there. You can get this one from Knife Center, and let them know that Knife Thoughts sent you. I want to say thank you to Seth for deciding to send this knife along for me to check out. I do really appreciate it. I appreciate when people, you know, trust me to share their projects, and I think that that's the case here. So thank you to Seth, thank you to Ben and Donnie as always. One note real quick, because Seth only had one, I think, copy of the box and such, I can't show you the packaging, but you can see it on, you know, Jack Wolf Knives' social media and website, KnifeCenter's website, so you can check it out there. The art is great as usual. This does come with a pocket clip filler tab, so if you don't want to use the pocket clip, and you know, the microfiber cloth, the sticker, all of that. I am going to try to get a sticker because I want to put one on my case. But again, thank you to Seth, thank you to Ben and Donnie for the chance to check this out. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and select all so you know when I post new videos. Check out my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics, and make sure you subscribe to the email newsletter there. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.